Well, no, because I'd just like many other MPs, I'd received death threats throughout that time.
Have you?
Yeah.
So Graham Bloxham for Wellington Live and Wellington in your pocket today. Boy, we've come down to Parliament on a crisp Wellington day to meet Kieran McAnulty.
How you going?
Good to see you, and thank you for taking the time.
No worries.
We're just going to talk a wee bit about the Wairarapa. Kieran's the Chief Whip. Wow, what a role that is, and just take us through what that is.
Well, anyone that's watched House of Cards might have a bit of a warped view of what a whip does. They have created this perception that they are hard-nosed people that really crack down on their troops, and it is true to say that discipline's part of that. We want to make sure that the caucus is united in talking about the things we want them to talk about and doing the things, or not doing the things we don't want them to. But for me, there's a practical element. It's our job as whips to get the government's legislation through the House. So you've got to know all the rules, you've got to know all the procedures to get that done.
The legal side of it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Parliament's ruled by standing orders. It means that it has to run in a particular way. It outlines things that you can and cannot do. And so within those perimeters, it's our job to make sure that we get the legislation through. And if you bugger that up, it can be quite a high profile event. So that's the primary role of the whips. Outside of that, we want to, like I say, maintain unity in the caucus. And like they say, to catch more flies with honey than vinegar. So we take a much more supportive approach to that. A real focus on well-being, conscious that it's a really stressful job and it's quite hard for people to be away from their families a lot, so we prioritise family time. And very quickly, we're allowed 25% of our caucus away from Parliament at any given time before it starts to affect the votes. So it's my job to decide who gets leave and who does not. So that's quite a big part of that as well. So I've got to talk to you about it for an hour. It's quite a complex job. It's utterly unique. There's nothing like it. But that's the guts of it.
You're a cool dude. You're very relaxed. I mean, for someone that's in a whip's position, I understand it to be an organisational, get things done and also support the other MPs around you. For someone so relaxed and how did you get yourself into that role and what does it entail?
Oh, I think looking after 65 people in any organisation, it pays to be a little bit more relaxed, because otherwise you'll get wound up pretty quick, pretty easily. And 65 MPs is a different level again. It's a pretty stressful job. They're away from their family. They're getting pulled and pushed in different directions from various different interests. They're in the public eye. That can lead to quite a stressful existence. And I think that if you're in charge of ensuring unity in caucus, discipline to some degree, but also welfare of your team, then it pays not to be wound up yourself.
The Labor machine has just been through a fairly intense couple of years. There's a bit of a comeback now, I see, from other parties. How are things going? How are things tracking? I saw a press release from Neil Jones. So how does Labor win the next election? Which was sort of, I saw come across with just people were mortified that Labor would exist after the next election. How's it going?
Oh, look, I think 18 months out from the next election probably, and all things considered, the last 2 years it's been bloody hard, and then now you've got a cost of living issue that every country in the world is facing at the moment. I think with all those things considered, to be polling essentially neck and neck with the opposition at the moment is pretty good going. When you think about it, you've got Australia and the UK both with Conservative governments at the moment. They're trailing in the polls. You've got the United States, Joe Biden, relatively new president. He's trailing in the polls. Justin Trudeau in Canada's only just won his election and he's trailing in the polls to a party that doesn't have a leader and won't have a leader for 9 months. So I think what that shows is that every incumbent government is facing a difficult situation, because there is a cost of living issue faced by their citizens, and there's only a few things that can be done about that, because unless, short of actually going over and joining a war with Putin to end that invasion of Ukraine, there's very little we can do about that aside from continuing to support Ukraine. And until that war finishes, we're going to be seeing stress on petrol prices. That then flows down to food prices because it increases the cost of transportation, manufacturing, etc., etc. It's a major issue, a real problem, and every country's facing it. But I think New Zealanders recognise that. I think they see that, there's action in the housing market. We're starting to see houses stabilise. We're seeing the number of houses being built increase, which should have happened decades ago, but it's happening now. So that's going to, in time, address the house price issue, which is a big driver of inflation. And I think that if we continue to focus on raising wages, then long term that's going to benefit, because ultimately inflation will come down, prices will stabilise. And if that's the case and we've been focusing on raising wages, then we're going to be in a much better position than we would be if we did a short-term, short-sighted, in my view, tax cuts, which isn't actually going to make any difference.
It seems pretty brutal in politics, but there's so many personalities, and you talk about the MPs that are fodder for the media or for social media. Do you find that some really struggle with that, the impact that it has on their personal lives?
Well, you don't know if you can swim until you jump in the water, do you? And so, there's some people that are pretty keen on the idea of becoming a member of parliament because they might be passionate about a certain idea, or their region, like myself, deeply passionate about where I live, and I want to do what I can to help the region and the people that live there. But you still might not be suited to be a member of parliament, and you won't know that until you get here. And there are some people that are in that position. And so I think the average tenure of an MP is just slightly longer than 3 years. So there's some people that are here for 3 years and then think, oh, well, I might give it another go, and then, oh no, bugger this, it's not for me. There's some people that come in here, do really well, they've done their bit, they bugger off. And then there's some people that just hang on for dear life for as long as possible because this is all they've got. And that's, I think, reflective of human nature. You just get a range of people.
And when the protest was on, I don't know whether you know, we're doing a documentary called Protested, a city taken to the edge. Has everyone recovered from that? I did notice that there were not a lot of, dissenting points about that. There was a real unity about moving the protesters on, and I know the police are doing their thing to round them up and hold people to justice, but do you feel we've moved on from that positively?
Yeah, I think we have, to some degree. I think there was a huge impact on people here at Parliament. As Whip, I was responsible for the wellbeing of a caucus, but I had a legal responsibility for the wellbeing of all the staff that worked for us as well.
Wow.
So there was a level of coordination to ensure the safe entry and exit of both MPs and staff throughout that time. That was quite full on for a lot of people, quite stressful. It continues to affect some people. That's not something that I can go into in any detail, and I'm sure they wouldn't want to themselves, but it's fair to say that some people were heavily impacted by the threats that came with some of the protesters.
Unbelievable.
As an example, I have enough funding because Wairarapa is a large electorate for a second electorate office, and I came up with the idea that I would use that funding to convert a camper van into a mobile electorate office, which has never actually been done before. MPs have had caravans that they take to markets and all that sort of stuff, but I wanted to be able to have my staff with me and bring constituents into the camper van or mobile office so that they could talk to me about the things that are important to them, as they would do if they had come into the office in Masterton. But in order to do that, I had to work with Parliamentary Service to come up with a security policy for the staff and constituents in a mobile office, redesign it, come up with all these sorts of things around an understanding around how funding would work and all that. The point of that is that I come up with this bloody good idea. It's gone down really well. First time it's ever been done. I'm real excited about it. And then Parliamentary Security advised me that I can't use it because they can't guarantee my safety. Your well-being is threatened in such a way, and I've got some pretty clear insight into what's happened to other members of caucus as well. So security had to be improved at my house in Masterton. Security had to be improved at my partner's place, where I stay during the week. And that was pretty confronting, but it pissed me off actually that the actions of some people, a small number of people, and it's not even reflective of everyone that was out there, but a small number of people are ruining it for the rest of them. So ultimately the electorate is losing access to their MP, which is a bloody good idea, and they've really gone down really well, but they couldn't have access to me because security have said we can't secure your safety. But that's died down now. So this is a very long way of answering your question. It has died down. I'm now able to use my mobile office, and as of the last couple of weeks, we've been getting out there and trying to make up for lost time, and it's gone down well.
Awesome.
But we shouldn't have ever had to have gone through that nonsense.
Yeah. We're doing a Parliament picnic at Parliament and we'll extend the invite out to Wellington Live people for staff as well. I think they quite often sit in the background. You know, we get a lovely cup of tea today, and we've been treated really well. And for the people of Wellington Live that don't understand, it's a wonderful place down here. And so you're in politics for a while.
It's not really up to me.
It's up to the people.
Yeah, that's right.
The voters.
I mean, I enjoy it. There's no doubt it comes with its challenges, and you got to give up a lot. Like, you miss out on a lot